If you're starting on your path to making films, you might have already come to the realization that no one's paying you to do it yet. But you still have bills to pay. So what now?
Want to rob a bank or something?
Before we jump in, let's remember what's important. Ideally, you find work that lets you utilize skills you want to develop or already have. So if you want to direct films, ideally you'd get paid to direct commercials, music videos, or something similar. The difficulty is, these are big industries and are just as difficult to break into and sometimes even more difficult. So we need to look for realistic revenue streams that'll also develop useful skills for your filmmaking future. I started by looking for jobs in the film industry. The advantage of this is that the skills you develop are still relevant to making films, and you have the opportunity to network with people actively working in the film industry. You could go for general jobs like production assistant jobs, or you can go for a niche skill set like being a drone operator or a DIT if you have those skills or want to develop them. The problem is, if you want to direct films, these roles will at most partly align with the skills you want to develop for your own projects. You want to be as close to directing as you possibly can get, or at least in a position where you can observe whoever's directing. In my case, the closest I could get was a film production internship in the office of a film production company. I would try to give you advice on how to secure an internship, but actually I just applied online, and I think I got lucky that my combination of language skills and a bit of experience on short films worked. All I would say is try to gather as much experience and skills as you can on small films and find a way to communicate what you can offer to companies you're applying to. Anyway, the pay was below minimum wage, which was shit and makes this option inaccessible for a lot of people.
Whack.
But I learned a lot about how the industry works at that multi-million euro budget level, which I knew nothing about and otherwise wouldn't have had access to, which is why I'm trying to make as much information as possible publicly available like this, so that everyone can have access to it and not just people who can afford to take no pay or minimum pay to learn this kind of stuff.
Information is power.
Now, what was interesting to me in this internship was that I got to see directors in meetings discussing the development of the projects. It was cool to see that the company's focus was also on the vision for the film and how to support it. Of course, the producers are having very different conversations at this budget level compared to lower budget levels. There were more discussions about the funding bodies involved with the film, implications regarding international co-producing, and certain additional roadblocks that come with larger budgets. Anyway, doing production jobs, you also get a good sense of all of the annoying details that need to be considered when making a film. It also helps you as a director to realize what's realistic at a given budget level and how much work it is to actually get shooting permits, to calculate overtime hours, and the financial realities of independent filmmaking. Another advantage of getting a film industry job is that they're often project-based, so you might have time in between jobs to work on your own projects, which is also a big benefit over having a normal full-time job. However, one issue with lower-level film jobs is that no one higher up is going to take you seriously with regard to networking. If you're at a production company as a production assistant and you tell a producer, "I'm actually a director," your position discredits that statement.
Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
It's hard to believe you're a promising director when you're the person writing the minutes for production meetings for below minimum wage. Don't expect to work your way up from the bottom to being a film director or producer. Anyone who's done that was making projects on the side or already had connections or money or something. But the main issue with these film jobs is you're not directing. You're not developing skills that are directly applicable to your goal. So by the end of my internship, I knew some hotshot producers, but there was no chance I could work with any of them given my position. Moreover, I knew I wasn't developing my directing skills. If you have specific skills you can use on film sets and it pays your bills, go for it. But otherwise, I'd recommend trying to find something that's less demanding and lets you craft stories. So let's talk about part-time jobs and freelancing. Because another important aspect of filmmaking on a budget is that you need to be time rich. If you're not going to have money, you need to at least have time, because you're going to need time to develop the large amount of varied skills you'll need in order to direct films. For this, I'd recommend a part-time job combined with freelancing. You probably know the classic move of actors working at cafes or bars so that they can have flexible hours to go to auditions. But an even better move is if you can find something that's relevant to your skills. After working full-time jobs for a while, I now work part-time as a video editor and I freelance on video jobs. sometimes shooting, sometimes sound, sometimes interviewing. It varies. These shoots are predominantly content pieces for companies. Now, even though these projects aren't films or even related to the film industry, they sometimes pay surprisingly well, and you're often in the driver's seat of forming the narrative. You're in the position of receiving material and asking yourself, how do I take this material and shape it into something that people find interesting or want to continue watching? Which is actually a good exercise for finding and crafting stories. But these jobs have drastically improved not just my narrative skills, but technical skills, working with clients and people who've never been in front of a camera. I also get to meet potential crew that I could get on board for future films. You'll find a lot of film people do these kinds of gigs to pay the bills in between. I also get to know what it's like working at different budget levels, not to mention shooting abroad.
I don't know, Lloyd, the French are assholes.
It just opened me up to a lot of different professional situations that were new to me. And all these experiences add to your tool belt. Another important thing is that this is a much easier entry point than trying to break into commercials or music videos. You start off with simple projects and develop your skills, then you can eventually shoot stuff that increasingly resembles commercial campaigns until you build up a nice portfolio. Then if you impress someone higher up in the companies you're already shooting for, or if the right person sees your portfolio, you already have experience crafting stories and working with clients, so you're ready to go for bigger stuff. That's the idea anyway. By the way, a good way to get a foot in the door for this is a video production internship. That's how I started and then freelanced for the same company afterwards. It's hard to find clients if you have no portfolio and don't work for an agency. Anyway, the important thing for me is that the part-time job covers my basic expenses, rent, food, bills and that, and the freelance jobs cover the costs of equipment and expenses for making films. Lately, I've had to dip into the freelance income because the cost of living is making it harder to completely cover it with the part-time money. And of course, this all depends on your living situation. Depending on what city you're in, you might not even be able to cover the rent with a part-time job, or it means sharing a shoebox room with 4 other people. Really, you need to decide what your pain points are and the minimum amount of income you need to live under conditions you find acceptable. Then you can see how you can use your remaining time and other income streams to make your films. So unless you're in some kind of sugar daddy or sugar mama type situation,
She's gonna buy me a diamond ring.
Or you're begging for money on the internet, which actually reminds me that I need to start a Patreon.
You serious?
You're going to have to find some other revenue streams to keep you afloat while you're making your films. Okay, so quick conclusion. I'd say find a steady income stream that doesn't eat up all of your time to cover your expenses. This could also be teaching something film related if you already have the right skills or a degree even. Then use occasional freelance gigs to make extra money to pay for your films. Ideally find a niche that less people have skills in, maybe script consultancy if you're a strong writer, or sound design if you're sonically gifted. Also remember, if you manage to secure funding, you don't even need the extra gig money. And feel free to ask other people you meet how they're making ends meet. I know money is a weird topic sometimes, but I think it's much better if we're open about this, so feel free to share your ideas and experiences about this as well. Let's try to make financially viable ways of being a filmmaker accessible for everyone. Alright, that's it. Thanks for listening. Now get the fuck out of here and make your film.